Hello and welcome to Ranking the Demons List Part 7. This is the series where I rank the Demons List. Pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, I've recorded this intro quite a few times, to the point where I feel like I could just use a stock intro and it would suffice. I can hardly contain myself. This episode is going to be really entertaining because we've got a very popular batch of levels here. This is the episode I've been waiting for a while. This is going to be extremely entertaining for me. As always, this is an ongoing series, and I recommend watching the rest of the series before this one if you haven't, and the playlist with every episode will be in the description. I can hardly contain myself, so let's just get right into the levels. Right off the bat, we're starting with a level I've never seen before in Pagoda, and this is the second time in the series in which I dismissed a level based off the name because it sounded like a name you'd see for a generic 2.1 glow level, but this is not a generic 2.1 glow level. It's actually really cool. There's a lot to love in this level. The decoration looks really good and almost looks kind of shiny. It's really hard to describe. And on top of that, there's just a lot of minute little details in this level that work really well. One thing that stuck out to me is really cool that this level does, and it's like a very small detail, but it just goes to show how polished this is. You know how some levels will spam blue pads before the drop? This level kind of did that, but without doing that. It did something completely different to supplement it and make doing that still feel unique. Basically, instead of blue pads, they just enabled the ghost trail and made the icon invisible, but what's cool about them doing that is due to the speed the level is moving, the icon's flickering actually syncs up with the beat of the song, and it's actually a really cool effect. That's just one of many examples I can give of this level having some genuinely solid polish. I'll even go so far as saying this level uses this song better than Verdant Landscape. My one complaint is that the level can lean a little bit onto the forgettable side, not because it's bad or generic, but just because it doesn't do a lot to stand out. It's got some cool stuff in it, don't get me wrong, but a lot of those cool things are subtle, and they're basically there to give the level sort of flavor. The level does unfortunately lean on the forgettable side for me, and because of that, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Next up we have Deimos. Now, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Deimos is literally just unnerfed Phobos, but it got redecoed. I don't know if it's truly unnerfed Phobos, or if there are still some things that are easier than unnerfed Phobos, but the basic idea is that it's pretty much unnerfed Phobos. I'm mixed on Deimos, because on one hand, the redeco does look kinda generic in other parts, but in other parts, there's a lot of polish, and it looks really cool. There's a lot of cool decisions made with this level. I like the entirety of the critical error part. I don't know what else to call this part, but I like this part. It looks really solid. And one of my favorite parts is the, weird 2.0 part. I'll get more into it in a future episode, but Phobos has this awful-looking 2.0 part. It's just, you go from a 1.9 extreme, and then it'll just suddenly have random 2.0 moving objects, and it's unsight readable and disgusting looking, and it comes out of nowhere, and it goes away just as quick as it showed up. This level kinda did something interesting with that part. See, Deimos obviously couldn't just keep the moving object part from Phobos, because that part is so bad. It's like the one part that they actually had to change. But what they did is cool. They fixed it up to not be disgusting, but they had these really lively moving pillars in the block design to give it that feel of early 2.0 moving blocks without actually having them, and I think that was a really good decision, because it keeps the sort of energy of the old level alive while not being disgusting and terrible. Of course, the level's not perfect. There are a lot of complaints I have, like the shake trigger abuse. I'm not really sure why this level uses shake triggers the way it does, but it does. I kinda would have rathered this level not have shake triggers at all, because, Phobos didn't have any shake triggers, but whatever. That's just a personal gripe. Overall, I think Deimos is really cool. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Next up, we have Arctic Lights, and this is a level I really don't have that much to say. It's a Circles level, and it's a really solid one, but it's just a Circles level. I will give it this. It is a really creative Circles level deco-wise. A lot of people say they don't like the way this level looks, and I get it. I do, but I will admit that I think the waves effects look really neat. This is one of the Circles levels that I feel is easier to look at than others, and I don't know, I just think it looks really solid. One thing that I'll say about Arctic Lights that I find really cool is how seamless the transition into the first wave is. I find with most 9 Circles levels, the transition from pre-drop to drop is really jarring, because it'll go from one deco style to another, just like that. It's out of nowhere, it's awful, and I've never been a fan of it. If I had never seen the original 9 Circles and you told me that this and this were the same level, I probably wouldn't have believed you. With Arctic Lights, the pre-drop deco complements the drop deco in such a way where it feels really seamless and doesn't feel like it's out of nowhere, and that's something I gotta really praise the level for, because it takes effort to do that in a Circles level. Realistically, I don't have that much more to say about Arctic Lights. I think it's just all around a solid level. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Next up we have Sigma, and oh my god, I have been sleeping on the Greek letter series, because I actually really like this level. Don't get me wrong, the decoration can be very, very generic in this level, and on top of that, a lot of it does seem kind of outdated. In particular, Lemon's part stuck out as very odd and very outdated. What makes me love this level so much is how well it utilizes the song. Forsaken Neon has already been one of my favorite GD community songs for a long time, and here comes a level that perfectly syncs up the gameplay with the song, and on top of that has gameplay that flows really, really well, and best of all, it uses the song in its entirety. I just really like this level. However, I obviously am going to take a step back, and I'm going to acknowledge that the decoration is very subpar, and that the theming in the level is non-existent at best. That doesn't stop me from liking the level, however, as of a rating, I'm probably not going to go that high. I'm going to say maybe 6 out of 10. I will say, though, this was probably the hardest level in the series to review so far, because I really like Sigma, but it does a lot wrong, and so I could go either way with this. I could give it a bad score, a mid score, or a high score, but I think going middle of the road, yeah, this level's probably just straight up mid. Next up we have the Yandere, and I really wanted to like this level. Mainly because I think the Yandere's Puppet Show is a really good acid notation song. Unfortunately, the level kinda falls flat. This level's deco has not aged well at all, being very early 2.1, and on top of that, the theming in this level confuses me. It takes a while to see anything related to a Yandere in this level, and it's a badly animated boss fight where knives are stabbing behind you. And beyond that, the level is just blood and red. Something we've seen a lot of, if I'm being honest. And then you just get weird shit like this. Why is there a Wendigo in a Yandere-themed level? That makes no fucking sense. Like, I know that the Wendigo is supposed to be symbolism for greed, but at the same time, the Wendigo is also usually associated with cannibalism. And yanderes have nothing to do with either of those two things. Like, what is the thought process of the creator here? Like, yanderes don't like it when other people try to go near a guy they have a crush on. So that must mean they're greedy. Let's throw a Wendigo into the level. What the absolute fuck? I don't know, maybe it's just me, but this just comes across as a little bit, racist. Like, not only is it cultural appropriation, but you're also mixing Japanese culture with Native American culture, and you're misrepresenting Native American culture. Which, yeah, I don't like that. The rest of the level's pretty mid. It's not horrible, but like I said earlier, it's just a lot of badly aged early 2.0 deco, and yeah, I'm really not a fan of it, so I'm just gonna give it a 3 out of 10 and move on. Next up we have Untitled Unmastered. This level was a part of that trend in which people were trying to build levels in the lowest object count possible. This level has just barely less than 1,000 objects, sitting at around 947. For such a low object count, this level manages to pull off a really intimidating, unnerving, and yet very cool atmosphere. It's actually kind of shocking that this level is as good as it is for its object count, and yeah, I really like it for that. I do have one complaint, though. I know it's kind of a lot to ask for a level with such a low object count to have good gameplay, but even with lowering my standards with that in mind, this just doesn't look that fun to play. In particular, the UFO gameplay really just looks awful. The rest of it, I guess it's fine, I don't really see an issue with the ship, but there's a lot of double clicks in this UFO, and I'm not a big fan of that. That being said, that is just a minor complaint, as, you know, most of the levels on the list aren't going to be fun to play, let's be real. But Untitled Unmastered, I think, does what it's trying to do really, really well. I'm a huge fan, I think it was done really, really well. I just think maybe the gameplay could have been polished up a little bit. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Next up we have Nhelv, and Nhelv is an extremely good memory level. It uses the song really, really well, and it has decoration that genuinely blows my mind every time I see it. The level's decoration is attempting to recreate the visuals from the music video for the song, and it does an extremely good job. My only complaint with Nhelv is something that's not the level's fault, and therefore this isn't going to lower score, but I'm going to mention it because this is the only place I'll ever get an excuse to mention this, and it's something that's annoyed me for a long time. This level murders bit rates. You're probably not even going to be able to see the level in full quality in this review because it is extremely hard to record and render this level in perfect quality. That's my only complaint, and it doesn't hinder score at all. I just wanted to get that off my chest because, yeah, this level is a really bad bitrate killer, and I kind of hate that about it. But aside of that, this level is genuinely so good. I will say that the GD community, while liking this level, does often say that this level is extremely overrated, and I actually agree because people act like this is just the best level ever made and that there will never be a level better than this. No, I think Limbo already kind of topped it, so, you know, that's a thing. But here's the thing about Nhelv. Even knowing it's overrated, it's still a 10. That's how good the level is. Next up we have Kowareta, and I really don't like this level. I wanted to really like it, but I'm just, not a fan. I think in this specific case, what it all comes down to is just how lackluster the deco is, because the deco in this level looks really, really lame. However, even if I'm not a fan of this level, I have a huge amount of respect for it because of how amazing the gameplay is. And I don't mean in the sense of it being fun to play, obviously I can't gauge that. What I'm more or less talking about is how well the level uses the song, and how well the gameplay syncs, and in general just the way the gameplay and the song are meshed together. It creates this really satisfying thing that's kind of hard to replicate, if I'm being honest. The gameplay has this sort of creativity that I can't help but respect, but unfortunately this level is really dragged down by the decoration. I really do feel that Fragile came along and polished this level in a way that it very much needed, because yeah, this doesn't look great. It could have been way better, so I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. Next up we have Ouroboros, and this level is really solid. However, I'm gonna get my only complaint out of the way right off the bat. I cannot take this level's song seriously. Now, I know pretty much any time this genre has come up in the series, I've shit on it, so let me be very clear. I love metal music and death metal and all that stuff. It just so happens that the GD community always picks stuff that feels like if Kevin MacLeod made death metal. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the song. However, the level really manages to redeem itself after the song choice, because it's got some of the best deco and theming I've seen out of like mid to early 2.1, and yeah, I really like this. For those of you who don't know, the Ouroboros is a symbol that basically just depicts a dragon eating its own tail, and with something so oddly specific, you might think that it's very hard to theme around that. But no, this level actually manages to theme around that really, really well, building off of that concept and having you fight against a dragon, and the level literally ends with the dragon sort of eating itself. It's really cool. It's kind of weird because I see a lot of people in the GD community say they don't like this one, but honestly, this is one of those very few exceptions where I don't get the criticism against this level, because, like, I just looked at it for the first time, and I think it's really cool. I don't know, maybe the gameplay sucks or something, but yeah, from what I can tell, this level is really solid. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. Next up, we have Visible Ray, and I'm just gonna be honest with you, I don't have a lot to say about this level. It is unremarkable, and it is boring, but I very much dislike it. It's a very incoherent mega collab, and at best, it's okay. At worst, what the hell is this? One thing I really hate are these stupid custom portals. I'm already not fond of custom portals, and I hate the type of, like, modern levels that use them, but this is worse than that. Instead, you just get a giant circle with text telling you what you'll turn into, like, ball big flip, or back big TP flip. That's really unnecessary, and it just comes across as a really forced gimmick. This level's weird because ignoring the actual deco quality in and of itself, this level can go from under-decorated to core in a matter of seconds, and I don't get why. This level can't even decide on if it wants to have custom jump rings and portals or not. On some part you'll have normal portals, on other part you'll have portals that look like they're from a modern level, and then on other levels you'll have big ball flip. Yeah, I'm not a very big fan. I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 10. And with that, we finished with our main levels, but we have a couple bonus levels to get into, so let's look at these. Next up, we have Knights of Thunder. This level starts off really solid, to the point where I'd say the deco is on the same level as something like True Effect, but the longer you watch, the more it falls apart. What doesn't help is that the level is pretty much the same the entire way through. I mean, obviously there are changes to the gameplay with the speed and the intensity, but decoration-wise, it's the same level the whole way through. It never changes anything up. If you watch the first section of the level, you pretty much got a taste of what the whole level is like. It ends on a very improper beat, to the point where it just feels like it ends arbitrarily when it feels like it, and yeah, I don't know how to feel about this level. It's weird, this level manages to feel both competent and directionless at the same time. This level just makes you feel disappointed in a way that's kind of hard to describe. It's just, there's so much potential lost here with the way this level treats itself. It's really hard to describe, but the end of the level and the stagnation throughout it makes it really disappointing, so I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Next up we have Edge of Destiny. Now, aside of maybe I Spy with My Little Eye, this is so far the best level we've gotten in 2023 by a long shot. This level is really cool. What this level basically is its unnerfed Blade of Justice, but with a ton of polish added to the deco. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. This might be some of the best deco of this year, possibly of the last 2 years. It looks amazing. I don't think I need to dwell on this. This is basically just Blade of Justice unnerfed, but with S-tier deco. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. If only unnerfed innards could have gotten the same treatment. Next up we have MINUSdry, which is a sequel to Hard Machine. Now I have mixed opinions on this, because the deco is really good, and I find the text Don't Get Wet really funny, but at the same time, and this may sound really weird, but this feels more like a sequel to Seri Neverclear than it does a sequel to Hard Machine, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. I think it's pretty funny, I don't have a lot to say, it just looks alright. Better than it should for being such a dumb joke level, but yeah. I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. Next up we have Avernus. Avernus is interesting because it simultaneously manages to be one of the most unnecessary try-hard things and also one of the most generic hell levels I've ever seen. The thing that's funny about Avernus is that it was originally pitched as a sequel to The Golden, but then the moment people started criticizing it for not being a good sequel to The Golden, the creator started to backpedal and say, no, it has nothing to do with The Golden, which... real good sign of a quality level. Before people jump down my throat and get mad at me for saying that this level is generic and bad, I will address something. A lot of people have said that, oh, this level's actually alright because the deco is really good. What are you talking about? Here's the thing, even if you like how Avernus looks, you have to at least admit that no effort went into this. Like, for example, the lava. Everyone praises how good the lava looks. The lava is one of the most low-effort things in the level. If you go on YouTube and you type into the search bar, how to make realistic AP Team-style lava in Geometry Dash, you'll find tutorials left and right that give you lava that looks identical to the lava in Avernus. To give you an idea of how generic this lava design actually is, I've seen it before, because a very similar lava effect was used in the Wavix house. Alright, so the deco is kinda subpar at best, and all the things that do look good are derivative. Okay, well, is the gameplay at least good? Well, this is a rare case where I actually can say it's not, because this level was artificially buffed. What was basically done is they took the level and they filled it with a bunch of fixed hitboxes to artificially increase the difficulty. And that's kind of my big problem with Avernus. If it was nerfed to be maybe like top 10, top 20, I wouldn't care so much. But this level is just obnoxious about the way it exists because it acts like it has god-tier deco when, let's be honest, it looks worse than the Golden, and that's an insult considering you can't see the Golden. And on top of that, the level just really wanted to be in the top 5 for some reason. At the end of the day, Avernus has no real justification for its own existence. This level is bad. That's all it comes down to. And the decoration, again, looks alright, but you can't sit there and act like that's some saving grace when this deco really isn't that hard to make if you're good at following tutorials. And because of that, I'm giving the level a 2 out of 10. And with that, we have finished part 7 of ranking the Demons List. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really enjoying the levels this time around. I think these are some really fun levels to critique. Even the bad ones, like Avernus, are at least entertaining in regards to how you can criticize them. I really enjoyed making this episode, and yeah, it was definitely a blast. As always, if you haven't seen any of the other episodes in the playlist, we are on, like, episode 7, so I would highly recommend going and watching every other episode in the series. At this point in time, I've been getting a lot of comments saying, like, oh, what's your opinion on this level? And then, like, you look and it's something I already reviewed in the series. Like, I've been getting a lot of people asking me if I like Nutra. Yes, I gave it a 10. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking out the rest of the series just so that you can get caught up. It's definitely been an entertaining series to make so far. I mean, I don't have that much to say at the end of this episode because there really isn't that much to update on. I will say, during the production of this episode, the list kind of shifted dramatically. I mean, when we started, Untitled Unmastered was on main list at number 75, about to fall off, and Pagoda was at number 69. Now Pagoda's at number 72, and Untitled Unmastered is at number 77. Somehow, despite that, the actual batch of levels we had to review didn't change at all. The only thing that changed were the levels that were above it, and I find that really funny because my plans for this episode never actually got derailed. I just ended up with a big handful of bonus entries. So yeah, I'm gonna end it here. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. We're really, really close to 4,000 subscribers, which, that's not a real number. Feel free to leave comments telling me what you think of the levels. I actually like it when people disagree with my opinions because I like seeing why people dislike levels I like and why people like levels I dislike, so yeah, that's always entertaining. Either way, thank you for watching.